Hello, and welcome back to Honorable Mentions. I'm Emily Varker,
And I'm Cameron Deshnod.
and wow, it has been a semester already, based on the fact that this is our first episode and it is February.
Yeah.
Late February, actually. That was mainly because Thesis Day.
Yep. Oof. It came, it went. It was interesting to say the least, I think. A lot of emotions wrapped up in that for a lot of people,
Yeah.
I'm sure. But yeah, I think it went really well. Would you like to give kind of an overview of what it is, and then we'll go into it?
Sure. So Thesis Day is I don't know exactly what to call it. I don't want to say it's a celebration, but
They called it a victory lap.
A victory lap, yes, for the seniors, where they present a brief summary of what their thesis is all about. And everybody gets broken up into different panels. We luckily managed to get on the same panel because we're both English majors.
Yep.
And there's a reception afterwards, and it's just nice.
Yeah, it was good. I think the panels, if I'm remembering correctly, it was like English. Then there was communications, which had like speech pathology and like mass comm tied up in it. Another was business, computer science, which we watched. Like, I don't know if you were there for all of it. I was there for like a good bit of it. There was also, I know there were other ones, but I'm blanking.
I think there were several business, there was science,
right,
psychology,
probably STEM and psych. Yeah, it was a shame because they were all split up into different areas too. It's not like people just went in the same location. So if you wanted to try to make some, you had to skip out on others intentionally because the times overlapped.
Yeah.
And then there's like travel time to get from one place to the other.
Yeah, most of them were in the library, but I think because our class was the biggest yet, they also had to have some over here in the Spellman Hall.
They did, yeah.
Which was kind of weird. I didn't manage to make any of those panels. No, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, because you have to prepare for yours and you got to get ready to go. And then like you're watching other people's at like wherever your location is already. So to get up and leave and try to run to somewhere else, you know what I mean? Does the whole thing.
Luckily, most of our friends were on the panel that was right before us in the space right where we were.
So that was nice. So do you want to go into, I know, computer science? So we took a big group photo, which was nice. And then computer science happened. And those were interesting. Do you want to talk a little bit about your experience with their projects?
Well, yeah. I obviously know not much about computer science, but it was fun because our friend Kat DiPreparizio, she had a project which was very interdisciplinary because she's a comp sci major, but she also has an English minor. And so her project was using machine learning to try and see if there's a place where you can catch authors who are diagnosed with schizophrenia. Like if you could see how their writing changed. And that was really interesting.
It was. Like, again, I had no clue she was doing that, so it came as a shock to me. And then just to like see it fully presented was great. And speaking of like the presentations themselves, everybody did really good. Nobody like broke down midway or
everybody definitely was very professional.
For sure. Well, at the very least, the ones we saw. So if you did break down, we didn't see it. Don't worry. Yeah. From there, I think Eli was like next, like 2 down from Kat. Eli did great. Loved his presentation. He moves around a lot too. I like when presenters move around. So he's always high energy. Good on him. Yeah, and they were good. I didn't understand a lot of the specific coding stuff. That was definitely, outside of my wheelbarrow of skills, but I just liked them. They were fun. Glad to see our friends present. Yeah. They had a lot of support too. It was really cute to see. So yeah, and then I think were we just immediately next? Or was
we went basically immediately next.
Right.
And that was also really nice because that was another bunch of our friends on our panel with us. Gianna, who was on some of our previous episodes, she also presented. And she and Cam wrote books for their theses. I think we've discussed that here on the podcast before. But do you want to talk a little bit about maybe how you came to what you presented on Thesis Day from writing a book?
Yeah, for sure. So I think presenting something on Thesis Day was not a challenge, but definitely I viewed it more as like a riddle or a puzzle because, you have a book, but I didn't think it was going to be extremely entertaining to get up there and just be like, hey, here's a book, right? And so to give you either one, a brief overview of it, I think feels cheap, right? Because it's not really indicative of the work I did. I could have given you a brief overview of it from like day 10 into writing it, right? And then to say like, to go into, oh, let me break down the deeper themes and messages defeats the point of reading the book.
Yeah.
If you want to. So I wasn't going to do that. So I know, for instance, Gianna, and if she comes back on the podcast, she can talk more about this. Instead of just presenting the book, she went through her views on young adult literature.
Because she wrote a YA book.
Yep. So she went through that, and she kind of talked in length about how people either view it incorrectly, dismiss it as not true literature, and then her eventually like rise to creating the book. I did something a little similar, but in the vein of, instead of being like, oh, here's why I think, high fantasy matters, I just went with the creative process as a whole. And I went through the several iterations of different books that I wrote, my journey to where I am now with writing it, and just kind of the overall feelings and ideas that you have to grapple with when writing something of this nature. So yeah, I mean, that was mine. I think it came out pretty well.
Yeah, yours was definitely one of my favorite presentations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And yours was too. So do you want to go into, depth about yours?
Yeah. So my presentation, it was actually a bit difficult for me to try and sum it all up because I have so many different moving pieces with my thesis. It was kind of hard to just slim it down into a 15-minute presentation, but I think it turned out fairly well. I decided to really focus on how the research I'm doing could be of benefit to the honors program. And it was also really nice because I think I told you the story, Cam, but I'll tell the story to our audience. So my thesis is about feminist retellings of books we read in the honors program. And one of the authors I was working on, her name is Natalie Haynes, just put out a book that same week, earlier that week. Maybe it was the week before. I digress. And she was doing a webinar. I didn't know about this webinar, but I follow her on social media. And so that morning, I don't usually check my Instagram. Like, I'm not one of those people who's obsessively on it. But that morning, I was like, you know what? I'm going to check my Instagram. And it was a good thing I did because I saw her post, hey, Stone Blind, that's the name of the book, is out. And I'm doing a webinar with this bookstore. And I said, let me see if that's free. Because if it's free, obviously I'm going to go to it. And it was free. And so I rearranged my schedule that day so I could attend that webinar. And I was so interested in what you talked about that day. And obviously when I was researching, I decided to ask a question in the chat. And I put it in the lead up to my question that I was writing my thesis on her. And I think the moderator for that session saw that I was writing my thesis on her and said, you know what, I'm going to take pity on this and let her ask her question for her. So my question got answered live. It was really cool. That was really cool. And then, thank goodness, the video got posted to YouTube. So I showed the clip of her answering my question during the presentation. And I thought that was just kind of a nice way to sort of round out the presentation, because it's all well and good to hear me talk about it, but to hear somebody who's actually working in the field I'm researching talk about her view, I think made it all the more clear, hey, this is something that exists and here's why it's valuable. Oh, for sure. And again, fantastic job and congratulations on not only completing it, but doing it in style. It was really cool when it happened. And again, I think you either intentionally or just like
you know, as it happens sometimes, kept like a nice hidden secret. So I didn't know it was coming. I don't know if anybody else knew it was coming.
I think the only person who knew in advance was my thesis advisor, because I told her about it the day I had gone to the panel. I found her after one of her classes and I said, Dr. Carlson, guess what happened? And she said, when that gets released to video, or like you need to get your hands on that video and show it during your presentation.
And a great move too. Like it had good style points, you know, and you're right, it does really help prove like your thesis. It's a nice little mark on like the effort that you went through to get to this point. So congratulations, and it was really cool.
Yes,
Again, it was nice. It was good style points, you know. And also like obviously it helped like your thesis, but it was also my main point is like the cool factor of having been able to do that and talk to the author and like get that personal response. Because I don't think anybody else did that except for me technically, because I am the author. So my whole presentation was that. So I mean you're playing catch up, but you know. But you know, I think that was so I didn't get to see anybody else outside of the comp sci ones.
Yeah.
And ours, unfortunately. To shout out the rest of our panel, Tara did a great job on Star Wars. And she did her entire thing on like the found family trope. And then Sarah did hers on dogs. Yeah. But I had to skip out during that because I found a like a little typo in my presentation because I was just kind of like scrolling through it again. So I jumped out.
Oh, is that why you ended up being late to your own presentation?
Yes, I was a little late. Because I thought Sarah would go on for longer. Because everybody like, no offense to them, obviously, like, you know, take your time. It's your day. But like Gianna and Tara went on for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So like I was like, oh, okay, so Sarah's definitely gonna follow suit, and I have 20 minutes to do this. I had like 10. And most of that time was spent talking to Will Lowry. So you know. That was that happened. So
look, it was bound to happen, and if it was going to happen to anyone, it was going to happen to you.
It's true, very true. Hey, again, at least it was me. I didn't really mind. I thought I had a nice little joke for it. Yeah. So that happened, but no, yeah, I was glad I could correct it. Would have been a little embarrassing, so saved myself that. Yeah, I think the presentations. Well, what was it? Was Sarah's? Specifically, was it dogs in literature or is it just like dogs as a whole?
It was dog culture. It was more of a cultural studies presentation than like a literature.
Got you. Yeah, shame. I didn't really get to see it, but I'm sure it was fun. It had dogs in it, big dog person. So
yeah,
like that. Yeah, comp sci people were great. I heard the other ones went well, right? I think that everybody did a fantastic job. I can't imagine anyone, you know, messing up. I think Will said he did a good job when I talked to him. Jason appeared like halfway through the day. Good friend Jason. So you know, he did something or other. Who knows? He missed his what's it called panel. That's funny. So the way that a couple of the presentations and panels went, instead of asking questions immediately after, they asked questions for everybody all at the end. Jason didn't know that was happening, so he just dipped out. That's funny.
Now, see, that's very Jason.
Speaking of questions, there was that one dude. I don't know who he was. He was for the comp sci panel, and he asked our good friend Kat like an ethical question, and I was like, "That's kind of crazy."
I believe he's one of the philosophy professors.
Yeah, I've seen that would make sense. And he hits her with like this ethical question. And I was like, "Dog, it's." You're doing this, and I told my buddy Raymond, I was like, if he goes to ask me a question, I was like, just like nice little arm hold on, you know what I mean? Choke him out. We're not doing this. But yeah, no, again, a lot of fun. Yeah, a little stressful, but
that means with that we are officially done with the honors sequence. Well, not me because I'm going for my thesis with distinction.
Oh, cool. That'll be nice. When do those happen? They have like a date?
I believe I get to schedule it myself.
Oh, really? Oh, that's really nice.
So I have to meet with my thesis advisor, but
schedule it.
Yeah.
Nice. Hey, you're gonna do great.
Yep. And it was really nice. All our friends and family were there.
Yep.
Yeah, your parents made the trip in.
They did. It was very nice of them. Them, my roommates, except for my one roommate Ryan, who was working, but shout out to Ryan. Yeah, I mean, gotta get that money. Yeah, no, I think that about covers it. Wish I could have seen more of the presentations, just how it fell, you know. And yeah, good luck with honors with distinction. Anything else you want to say?
Thank you. I don't think there's really that much to say, but stay tuned for more episodes about our adventures during our last semester as seniors.
I know.
Oh gosh, feels like I don't want to say just yesterday that we were like freshmen together in honors 101, but it certainly does not feel that long ago.
Oh yeah, it's weird that it's been 4 years.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting feeling, but one we'll explore next time.
Yeah. And that's all for now, That's all for now, everybody. Onwards and upwards. See you soon.